Welcome back to the Real Estate Show on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett with you here. And gosh, thanks for joining us here mid-December, the 12th and 13th, midway through that holiday season down to the new year coming up soon. And hope you're out and enjoying the weekend, whatever you do. Please be safe and all that. Next week, the home builders will be along in 2 weeks from today. Wait, water? we got a lot of water standing around after all the rain we've been having lately, but we'll update you on some of the activities, winter activities go on in rural properties. That's in 2 weeks from today. Frank Mania from Ticor Title's with us here today, and always nice to visit with you. How are you?
Peter, I'm doing just perfect, thank you.
Yeah. End of the year. Did you guys have a pretty good year at Ticor? I mean, Bob Gervais was telling us, we had lunch with him the other day, and he said, RE/MAX up again from a year ago, and still not back to where they were in 2005. Yeah, but nobody is that kind of thing.
Our business is kind of been the same way. I mean, we're getting better every year. Our numbers are up, but we're not back to where we were. But, our business continues to change a lot, and the laws that are coming down on the banking industry, it's kind of a domino effect. It's filtering down into the title insurance industry. So we're having to make a lot of changes in our office in terms of some of our procedures, a lot of our procedures, especially when it comes to data security and documents.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of issues with documents being stolen, loan packages being sold off UPS trucks.
Really?
Kind of a thing. Yeah, that data breach is a big issue.
Data breach is going to be a big thing in everything, isn't it?
We've gotten to a point with some of the lenders that we're closing with the original documents are not even being returned back to the lender after the signed. We scan that information, send it back via email. Under secure email, and then shred the originals. I mean, that's just everything is just getting destroyed. I mean,
well, that's good that you guys had a good year and look forward to 2015 because, like everything, title companies part of this real estate market that includes not only realtors and brokers, but bankers and lenders and title people. I mean, it's a huge industry, and so that's good to hear that you're doing well as well. Now, you've brought along, I know you have a great deal of interest and on the shows from our listeners and in terms of jobs in our valley and the economy and how we do things and get things. And I mean, you spend a lot of time with that, don't you?
I do, and two of the people I brought with me today are the people I enjoy talking to a lot out in the field, and I've put together a couple of mastermind sessions this past year, and we've got some core people together talking about how we're going to get businesses into the valley, and we've had government agencies there, City of Medford, Jackson County has participated in these meetings. There's dialogue going on right now about SDC charges, about how are we going to deal with it. I know some groups, even more like the City of Grants Pass, is temporarily waiving some of their fees as an inducement to get businesses into their city. And
smart, because Josephine County, I think, all in terms of new construction is just nothing.
That's right.
Still, I mean, look what we're doing here.
Right.
I think that last 3-month reporting period had 3.
Yes,
and that's a boom because it's been 0.
Exactly. It's a 300% increase.
Yeah, it's a 300% increase as well. Well, let's bring some of these fellas in. You got Mark Von Holle was on the show here with Joe and you. In October, and I was out of town and didn't get to meet or talk to you that day. Mark, welcome to the show. You've been around. I mean, people know the acronym SOREADY. I mean, Southern Oregon Regional Economic Development Association. That's kind of the leader, I guess, or the most well-known organization in the job creation world. So you've been with them. You've been around a long time doing this as well, just like Frank.
Yeah, on a volunteer basis. Thanks, Pete. On a volunteer basis for about the last 8 years. I had 6 years on the executive committee. I had a 2-year term as a board president, but actually resigned from SOREADY about 3 or 4 weeks ago, just to avoid any conflict of interest, an appearance of a conflict of interest, and just kind of the awkwardness associated with what I'm doing now.
So tell us what exactly Southern Oregon, Imagine Southern Oregon is.
Yeah, Imagine Southern Oregon is an S Corp that I founded just a couple of weeks ago in response to an outreach I made to Jackson and Josephine County commissioners and a number of other stakeholders that are going to support me to basically be a marketing consultant to represent them and their interest and our community on a level that we've not done in the past. And basically what I've done is I found a community that's similar size to ours in the Pacific Northwest that brought in 75 to 80 businesses out of California. And all I did was reverse engineer what they did, lay that over our valley, and I'm going after our top 5 high-tech sectors.
Okay.
Our top 5.
What are the top? Yeah, the top 5. What are they?
There's software, electronic instrument manufacturing. There's different components that we have. But the bottom line is we have about 1,500 jobs in our high-tech sector, just in the top 5, that pay about $65,000 annually, not including benefits. Then Josephine County, where the median wage is less than 32, that's more than double what the median wage is there. And they've had over 500 high-tech jobs in Josephine County that pay that rate.
Yeah, and people may remember in Josephine County, Frank, remember when Litton Industries was there?
Yeah,
they used to make, components for the cruise missiles in Grants Pass,
Right.
for years.
Right.
I mean, so high-tech stuff has not been out of our valley in the past, has it? I mean, it's really here.
It's actually here. There's actually, I asked people, how many high-tech companies do you think are represented in this 2-county region? I'll ask you that question, Pete. I'm going to set you up here.
Say it again. How many what now?
How many high-tech companies do you think are represented in this 2-county region?
Ooh, that is the good question.
I'm not going to give you any.
300.
Wow. Boy, talk about the eternal optimist. Everybody give us guesses like 5 or 6, 20.
Oh, really?
It's 277.
I was pretty close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's 2,753 jobs. Those jobs overall in our high-tech sector pay about $56,000.
Really?
That's
Okay.
150% of our median wage. At that wage rate, people can actually afford to buy and own a home here.
Okay.
But the problem is, the year that I moved here in 2002, Medford, Oregon was ranked the #1 least affordable housing market in the United States of America.
That's true. It was for a while. I remember that.
And it was because of the disparity between our low stagnant wages. Our wages here recently slipped from the bottom 7% to the bottom 4%, lowest wages in the country.
That's not good.
It's
That's really not good.
It's really bad. So it pushes a lot of the young people out because we don't have decent jobs. They can't afford the homes. But with housing starts down, in particular California, and equities up, I'm working on recruiting a high-tech company out of Fremont right now, so I'm real sensitive to pricing in Fremont. The 1,540 square foot track house my wife and I sold at the end of a cul-de-sac, it was 30 years old, 12 years ago, for $450,000. Same house now, $750,000.
Wow.
$476 a square foot versus our Jackson County average, which is about $128 right now. Right now, we're 28 cents on the dollar.
And it's the price of housing in the Bay. I was just in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and it's stunning.
It's crazy.
What happens. But is the price of housing, that kind of thing, driving companies to look elsewhere? Is that part of this whole thing? Or why is someone going to leave there and come here?
There's significant cost advantages doing business here. I mean, I'm looking at companies right now that are paying $2 to $3 a square foot a month for a commercial lease. Rent. And we could put them in a brand new Class A building for a half to a third of that. And a building that they would own and not just have, lease payments for the next 20 years. So I'm targeting
those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. And there's other cost advantages too. As screwed up as we think that Oregon is, and I'm as guilty as anybody else. I drink the negative Kool-Aid, and it's like it just paralyzes us. We don't do anything because we think we're so unfriendly to business. But in the overall business rankings of the United States, Oregon is number 17th best. California is number 47.
California is because of taxes and housing costs and
all the above.
No water and what else is going on down there. Let's bring the third person in today, Jim Zundel, who's from let me get it right, Leland James Zundel Realty, right? And that kind of thing. You got to talk into that microphone there, guy. We're not going to be able to hear you.
Right.
There you are. Now, how are you associated with these two guys, first of all? That's what I want to know.
Well, I've known Frank forever, and I've known this gentleman for about 10 minutes. So,
go back a long ways.
Go back a long ways.
Now, you're a broker.
I'm a principal broker.
Principal broker. And you work in the commercial area mostly. Jim, is that where you're kind of hanging out?
Commercial, developable ground, a lot of bare ground that ties
Talk
in
to
right.
Everybody right there.
Talks development ground, just like he's talking. When we bring these industries in, the bare ground to get it shovel ready, get it through the process, and get it bought.
Yeah, and what has been your experience with dealing with this community? I guess the valley, in terms of doing what you can do for that.
Well, Jackson County, there's great information out there. The processes are tough. There's lots of bugaboos that can get you, and since 2006, we really haven't seen the development bare ground, not lots, have a market. But I think we're close. We're starting to use up the existing lot inventory, and the next step is to get some of this other. We see commercial, we see the big boxes coming in still, an interest there. But we need to get the jobs and the values up to fill those little spots in all these downtown areas and that are vacant and are ready for that entrepreneur who just, it's all tied together.
What's the hardest part about dealing with, I guess, government or the red tape? What's the biggest complaint that developer guys like you or people who are trying to do some of this get, lots ready, whatever to do? What do you run into? What's the biggest problem you think? Hurdle?
Timing.
timing.
It can get tied up so long. I mean, you say the word wetland and
It's just
is it going to be a year? Is it going to be 3
Really?
years? You go into Jackson County and you do your plats and your public hearings, and there's always the possibility of appeals, and which turns into time, cost of money. So time is the biggest fear. You've got to be able to get it from where it is to where it needs to be quicker, more efficient.
And that's just local. I mean, if you're dealing with federal agencies, like there's one group that was trying to move a creek, and it took him almost 4 years to get a permit just to move this creek. He finally got this permit after 4 years.
Because at that point he had to go to Army Corps engineer,
Exactly right.
DSL. I mean,
Well, I get a kick out of, every time we have an election, everybody talks about, the great deal about creating jobs and how we're going to do all these wonderful things. And then after the election, they kind of go away. You never hear about those things again. And yet, but at least I'm hearing from you guys is that there's at least something going on out of here. What was Mark von Holle, what was the reaction? I mean, how have we done it in the past? Why haven't we been more successful? Is it because, now this is my theory, and tell me this is how far off I'm at. I've always heard over the years and doing lots of stories and things that we have such restrictive air pollution standards in the Rogue Valley right now that it precludes any kind of industry, anybody from moving in here because you cannot add to the pollution in the air shed. Is that an accurate thing or is that off?
Yeah, we live in a bowl, and the mountains trap the air, so we've got significant airshed restrictions that really challenge our ability to grow our economy on a level that a lot of other communities don't have.
That's what okay.
And even when the timber industry was in full operation around here, they were allocated credits for atmospheric emissions associated with their production, and they've been gone for so long. I mean, the mills are gone.
Long gone, and they're not coming back.
And those credits have actually expired. So if timber comes back to play a more reasonable role in our economy, which I hope it would, we live in the Saudi Arabia of timber production around here, right? But right now, the vocal minorities hamstrung our country from accessing their own resources to our own detriment. So, things, a lot of different tech sectors, say software. Software is manufacturing. It's considered manufacturing. Even if it's something that's developed at a keyboard and there's not a product coming out the door because somebody downloads it through the internet, it's still considered manufacturing. And I've spoke with Jackson County and Kelly Madden in particular and said, Kelly, if I'm going to go after software companies, I need to know, under our ordinance that outlines what's permissible use in general industrial, it doesn't say anything about software. It doesn't even address technology. But wouldn't you agree, Kelly, that software is considered manufacturing?
Yeah.
And it was about 3 days for her to get back to me, and she finally did. She said, I think you're right.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, well, I need to know for sure I'm right, because if I'm pushing these lands out there in White City for high tech.
What would work? Go ahead, Frank.
No, go ahead.
I said what would worry me is that say you get a business, say we want to come up here, and you're all excited, and all of a sudden you run into this roadblock of you can't do this because you're going to add to the air pollution, or is that going to be?
No, the businesses that I'm looking at, our top 5 high tech sectors, the kind of businesses don't cause atmospheric emissions.
They simply don't do that.
They don't do that kind of stuff.
All right.
So it's not really a concern.
That's not going to be a concern.
And we'll have a greater density of better quality jobs on the very limited land that we've got to use for such a purpose.
Okay.
And so my contention is, why just allow whatever happens to happen? That's not really working out for us that well. Why not have a more specific strategy to go after the businesses? I mean, Californians are coming here no matter what. How many of you guys came through California at some point in time in your life? That's up. Okay, there's two of us.
Yeah.
That's half. Okay, me and Frank.
I mean, I drove through it. I mean, I live in California.
When I asked that question at Rotary, it's like, hey, let's have a little group therapy. If you've passed through California at some point in time in your life, maybe you're not from there, but you passed through there, but getting here, raise your hand, get it high, and everybody look around. It's about half the room.
Yeah.
Every other person that comes here came from California, and so it's part of keeping Oregon green. Right?
So our business climate, you're saying, is improving. I mean, it's making.
I think it's not as bad as we think it is, in particular in comparison to California. For business taxation, with one being good, Oregon's number 17, so there's nothing to write home about. But California's 47. That's the 8th largest economy in the world. If the Silicon Valley was its own nation, it would have the 19th largest GDP in the world. And the communities around California that aren't in identity crisis, like I think the Rogue Valley has been for a long time, about their strengths that they should be nurturing and leveraging, and they're confident about their story, and they make the right investment to tell that story, they do really well, because as screwed up as we think we are, they're a lot worse. And there's a continual outward migration of businesses leaving there, and they're going to those communities to get their attention and say, Pete, on your way out of California, can we talk to you about Reno or Sparks or Bend or Boise, or you know what I mean?
Business owners are receptive to that message.
I'm looking at a model where they brought in 75 to 80 businesses into their community in the Pacific Northwest, similar size to ours. We could do that.
we're closer. I mean, we've got a lot of advantages, don't we? Have a lot of advantages. Jim Zundel, what are some of those advantages that we have here?
We've got workforce ready to work. We've got ground ready to build on.
It's all in place right
We've
now.
got water.
Infrastructure.
Yeah, and infrastructure.
Infrastructure's all there.
Yeah. Well, we've had a lot of improvements, and government has done a good job in terms of the infrastructure.
Yeah. We have the bypass coming next year, if I understand.
Well, we're going to be up against a break. When we come back, I want you guys to talk about some of the things happening in the Valley, would you? Sure. Some of the things that are out there, because we always talk. I was Amy's Kitchen. I know I have a friend who got hired in Amy's Kitchen, working on the new line, the pizza line, I think it is out there. And those are good jobs, and kinds of things like that. So. There is good stuff out there, isn't there? But it's not enough of it. We got to have more, because I agree with you guys. Gosh, so many of our kids, we educate them in scholarships we give away, and they leave and never come back. And it's been a problem for a long time. This is the Real Estate Show on KMED this weekend. Pete Belcastro here with you, along with Frank Mania, Jim Zundel, and Mark von Holle. We're talking economic development around the Rogue Valley. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, and check them out on youtube.com/Real Estate Show Oregon. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED this weekend of December 12th and 13th of 2014. Pete Belcastro with you. Hope you're having a good December. Don't forget, we get together with you once a week here on AM KMED and talk about all things related to real estate in Jackson and Josephine County. And I'll tell you, all the things we learn, and our listeners over these 5.5 years, well, they know what's going on in the market, Frank. You know that because, gosh, they've got some great guests and good information. Always like that.
Yes, we do.
And it's never a dull moment. Well, I'm curious today. We're with, of course, Frank Mania from Ticor Title, Mark von Holle from Imagine Southern Oregon, a high-tech business recruitment firm, and Jim Zundel from Zundel Realty here talking about jobs and the kinds of things that all go in to make a healthy real estate market. Mark von Holle, how in the world are you able to do this? This is really interesting to me because, I call myself old school and old around here, but to have economic development, having someone like you in a business to go out and represent the areas and not from a government kind of standpoint is different, isn't that? I mean, I've not heard of that, and I hope you're going to be successful at it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And a lot of other people are hoping the same.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. So, I made a presentation that started off with the Jackson County Commissioners, and I got this roadmap to regional economic resiliency, I call it. Obviously, we need a map. We're not economically resilient in this region, with our wages being the bottom 4% lowest in the country. We still have about 8% of our workforce, nearly 10,000 jobs between our two counties that we have still not regained 5.5 years after the Great Recession supposedly ended. It looks like the jobless recovery is on steroids in Jackson County.
Yeah.
And if you look at our labor participation rate, with 50 being bad, Oregon is 49th worst in the country. And our two counties, Jackson and Josephine County, are 29th and 30th out of 36 counties. So if Oregon's about the worst labor participation rate in the country, and we're bringing up the rear in the state, this community has about the lowest labor participation rate in the country. And there's lots of other stats like that. I won't go any more of those. But I made this presentation dealing with the reality of the significant socioeconomic challenges we've got long-term here that we're not addressing, and then talking about the tech sector and the strengths that are there that we should nurture and we should leverage, and then talking about a transformation. So long story short, the Jackson County Commissioners invited me to make a presentation. And that same day, they made an award to me for a 3-year contract. And the next week, I went to Josephine County. They did the same thing, a 3-year contract. Wow. And so I've got a few other stakeholders that have come into play, and I've got a couple more that will be lining up in the next couple of days. So we're ready to launch and actually start doing this. So I've got a very specific process for identifying these companies and making the outreach to them. And they're companies that are the right demographic that would fit within the fabric of our community.
And it seems like the area that you're dealing with.
Absolutely,
in the
yeah. I
sector,
spent my entire adult life and career in the Silicon Valley before moving up here about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
So,
and what is it? I mean, we always, talk about quality of life kind of things of why people want to come here. Is it the same thing in a business? Is that what they're looking for? Do you think if you come in here a year from now, or 2 years, or even 3 years from now, we're going to judge your success by, it's going to be pretty black and white. You're either going to be successful or you're not.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we're going to be successful because we're not reinventing the wheel here. Again, we're looking at best-in-class modeling. If another community that's even further away, a more remote location and a colder climate than Medford has, we're more centrally located on the I-5, halfway between the Silicon Valley and the Silicon Forest. There's a lot of great things that we've got going for us, but we've never really understood it enough to make the investment to tell our story.
Okay, so you're in the recruitment of bringing them here. Once they get here, Jim Zundel, is there enough land? I mean, these people come here, these businesses come here. Do we have enough available to meet what maybe Mark is actually going to be able to do, or where does our land status, commercial land status, go for this? Industrial land, maybe, or whatever.
Jackson County's worked for a long time on the RPS, and they've planned for the growth. They've established a whole new process for bringing and identifying properties in ahead of time, making it easier for the cities to bring it in as needed. There's plenty of room, and we seem to have plenty of services, and Southern Oregon's a great place to live. If we can bring them the jobs, we get them here, we can keep them here.
And where exactly would some of this take place at? Is there particular areas, in the Portland area, we always look at Hillsborough and Beaverton out there because, God, Nike's out there and all the high-tech guys are out there. They're booming out there. Where is it going to take place here in our valley? Is there a specific area? Is it going to be all over? Is it going to be concentrated or what?
If you look between Ashland and Merlin, Ashland's got the Croman Mill site. It's former mill, right?
Yeah.
About 60 acres. They could absolutely do a tech park there.
That's a beautiful place. That's a good spot.
Yeah, it's a great spot. And then if you go all the way to Merlin, you've got the Rendata Industrial Park. Mm-hmm. And there's a Spalding Commerce Park in Grants Pass. Between the two-county region, there's about 8 different sites that a lot of them are available right now, and others are in the urban reserve, to your point. Mm-hmm. But, we've only got a very minor amount. Oregon's got the most restrictive zoning overlay of all 50 states.
Tell us something there that
we don't already know.
That dates back to 1970.
Yeah, and the voters brought it in and thought, well, that's a great idea. The whole rest of the country is going to follow suit, and nobody else did. It's crazy.
When you look when you're an Oregonian like myself, and we look at California, and you look at the Silicon Valley, one of the things about all these zoning rules and land use laws that we have, when you drive down there and you go through there, you say, we don't want Oregon to be like this, don't we? Everybody says that.
Yeah,
it's true.
We don't want to be like the Silicon Valley, where it's just, it's city after city, et cetera.
It won't
like
happen
that.
here. More than 50% of your land is controlled by the feds in Jackson County, 70% in Josephine County. So you've only got so much land that you could use for this purpose. And my contention is, why don't we have a better purpose?
Mm-hmm.
So
do we have a workforce that can do this kind of work that you're talking about?
There's a few answers to that. One is that, number one, we've already got, we've got probably 2,000 people in our tech sector already.
Okay.
Number two, we've got a great technically educated workforce capacity. There's more than 5,700 kids from this two-county region enrolled right now in the 8 Oregon universities, including about 300 at OIT. Mm-hmm. So we've got a great technically educated workforce capacity, but most of them go somewhere else because of lack of opportunity. Mm-hmm. The other way to answer that is 25% of our workforce right now is working below their education and skill set because of the intentional lifestyle choice of wanting to be here. The last part of that is the companies that we're going after, they're probably going to bring about half of their workforce with them. Okay. If you're living in the Bay Area and you're locked out of the housing market and you realize what you could get up here, or if you're equity rich because you've had your house more than 3 years, you could cash out and do really well up here. Mm-hmm. So my gut tells me, and we'll find out, and actually this is proving to be true. I'm working on recruiting a company right now, and they're going to bring about half their people with them. Mm-hmm. And then we can infill the other half because it's something we're already doing here. Mm-hmm. And we've got. So it's not going to be without challenge, to put it mildly, but it's like if we don't, if you want something different, you have to do something different. And this really isn't that far out of sync with what we've already got going on.
That's what I would say. It's not. You're not. You said at the beginning, we're not reinventing the wheel here.
We're not.
But I don't think we've taken advantage over the years of what we could have.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe that's the way to describe it, isn't it?
And other cities and communities have faced this challenge, and they've worked through it. And I think it even said at some of our mastermind sessions, we've kind of talked about that. How did they deal with this in other places?
Okay.
How have they dealt with this in other cities? How have they dealt with this in other states? All we need to do is a little bit of discussion in some of these other areas and find out what they did and do the same thing. No, we don't need to go to the extreme of exploding like the Silicon Valley or some of the areas of California. But, yeah, we do kind of need some growth here.
And we shouldn't let that fear inhibit us from doing the best that we can to realize our greater potential.
We can limit the growth and have still have a place to live with the quality of life that we have now and continue to expand.
Right.
Businesses bringing up half. That's going to create create housing.
Right.
You have to have that.
It's a great economic multiplier that we don't have here right now. If you look in the yellow pages, you look at your Rotary directories, you look at your chamber directory, you'll find that all those lists have one thing in common. The majority of the business they represent are businesses that are based here, dependent upon what happens here. And if you don't have a decent foundation of family wage jobs, people don't have expendable cash in their pocket to support the local economy. Mm-hmm. And that's what we've got to change.
Well, gosh, we're seeing we've had some interesting votes here. Look how our valley is going to change. You're out doing the high-tech recruitment in here. We're going to have the non-GMO agriculture world here. We're going to have recreational marijuana legalized in another less than a year in our state. It's going to really change the dynamics, isn't it, for I mean, commercial real estate.
Yeah.
I think.
It's an evolution, and you were talking about the mills and where will these places go. Go drive around White City. Let's resurrect all that great land out there, right at the base of the Table Rocks, overlooking McLaughlin. You've got Amy's. There's room for many, many tech places, people to come.
Interesting comment, because if you go back and look at White City, I mean, some of that's already been platted for a lot of years, and some of it's never been developed. So, I mean, the footprint was there a long time ago.
It's been there.
There's plenty of room.
Yeah,
it's been there.
That's really the main area? Is that where you look at, Mark?
Yeah, that's one of the areas. I mean, there's a great inventory there. And to your point, Jim, Reed Murphy and his business partner bought 80 acres from Burroughs of last winter.
Okay.
80 acres. It's state certified, shovel ready. So all the roadblocks that one side of the environmental extremists would like to throw out to challenge your ability to develop have been cleared out of the way, and that land is sitting there vacant since World War II.
And ready to go.
It's ready to go.
We have good land here. I mean, you can't grow crops out there either, by the way, on that land. So it's a good industrial use. Hey, the Real Estate Show. One more segment to go today. We're with Mark Von Holle, Jim Zundel, and Frank Mania. This show repeats at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. And check out the shows at youtube.com/Real Estate Show Oregon. We're coming right back after this. Real Estate Show continues here on KMED this weekend, December 12th and 13th of 2014. Hope you're getting ready for a good Christmas coming up and get your shopping all done, things like that. And next week we'll be along with the Home Builders Association of Jackson County and update you on what's going on in home building, which is pretty robust right now, even in winter. What's going to happen over the winter if they continue to build? You think that the weather turns it, but Frank says no.
They can get these houses to a point where they can start working on them inside. They're good to go. They're going to keep going.
You put the roof on and we'll just continue on.
Keep going.
We're with Frank Mania from Ticor Title today, and Mark Von Holle and Jim Zundel. We're talking about jobs in the Rogue Valley, Jackson and Josephine County in particular. Mark's got a business going on, recruiting, got a cool deal with the commissioners from both counties to get out there and look at high-tech jobs and what we can do. I like that at least you're not. I mean, I was used to seeing when I would see these things in the news business over the years was, geez, someone knows 300 jobs. Well, no one's going to come here with 300 jobs and things like that. And none of those ever came out anyway.
Exactly.
And so what you're saying is a much different approach. And I really do like that, Mark, and wish you well with that. That's for sure.
Yep.
Now, Jim Zundel, are you actually, we talk about developing land and getting it ready for this type of thing that the Mark is doing. Are you working, do you have projects going on that you're developing right now commercially in the Valley? And how is that going if you are?
Well, currently, yeah, commercially and residentially. It's that time of year or that time in the economy to bring out those old expired plats, dust them off, and get them going again because people are starting to build again. And now it's like, okay, what are our lots for next year and the year after? So we definitely have some offers in on bare ground, and we have developments that we're picking back up and replatting and getting reaffirmed and getting ready to go on. And we're building currently. A lot of my clients are already sticks in the ground.
They're doing that. And you're saying that you have to really plan this stuff out ahead of time because the timing, as you say, is so critical. Because you have lots of money involved with this stuff. We're not talking just a few pennies here and there.
Yeah, one of my jokes when they start the planning process is I refer to it as the People's Republic of Oregon. But you really do have a different process that you don't know about. You got to come up to speed, and you can't start too early because if you want to switch zoning, you want to split lots, you want to do any type of subdivisions, you've got to get the engineering done. You got to start, you got to plan ahead, and you got to know how long it's going to take you and allow for a little extra.
Yeah, and that's the difference. Of course, commercial versus residential, you get that done pretty fast. Right. But in commercial, it is a whole different world, isn't it? I mean, you're saying that, and I hear that all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, before we get out of here today, I know that some of the things happening. I know business-wise in the Valley, Frank always kind of updates us on some things going on there. So what are you hearing about business-wise here in the Valley lately?
Last I heard, Costco's kind of getting close. I guess it's okay to say that.
Costco's getting close. We'll build another one?
Yeah, they've been really serious about that for a while. And so
these are the things that just made me crazy. I don't know why they need another building. They got a huge one there. I mean, isn't that enough?
They've kind of outgrown that building.
Is that much
the parking lot?
The parking lot.
Yeah.
I know when that store first got built, someone had said to me that store would never make it in Jackson County, and it turned out to be the most profitable store in the Pacific Northwest.
Isn't that amazing?
Costco, so.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Medford Center, tell me about that, because I know that is sold. Kimco had it for a long time, and it's kind of just been sitting there, just kind of deteriorating. But now, what's going to happen there?
And boy, and like Mark and Jim's relationship of 10 minutes, I just heard that about 15 minutes ago from these guys, and they're telling me that project's been sold, and I guess you guys have talked to some of the principals and have seen some of the plans. So.
Yeah, they showed me some elevations, and they've got some good stuff planned. I mean, the Medford Center, they're a very forward-thinking group out of Los Angeles, and they've got some really good ideas on identifying how they set it up, and I think they're going for more of a three-part center. They're going to capitalize on Tinseltown and the gym and make it more of a not where you go shopping, but where you go on a date.
Destination place.
Where do you take your wife on Friday night? Go to the show, build shops around it. And then, of course, they got the Safeway Center, which is a little different. But, yeah, good stuff. And they're going to put a lot of money into the building, which can't hurt our valley.
It's still what a great location it is.
Yeah,
Isn't
it's
it?
right in the middle of town.
I mean, it's right in the middle.
Right in the middle of town.
It's the perfect location. So I'm glad to hear that that's going to happen there.
And if you have contacts with that group, my only pet peeve about that project right now is take the speed bumps out or taper them down. There's so many speed bumps in that parking lot. Broken axle in there.
You know, it was funny talking to the guy. He goes, if you exit over by Jimmy John's, you would have no idea there was a Sears here. So part of it is planning it and mapping it and having entrance maps. And I mean, it's kind of always been a little bit of a hodgepodge, confusing thing. And that's where they're going to correct it and give it some flow.
Absolutely.
And grouping tenants the right way, and I wish them all the success.
I mean, the access, ingress, and egress in that project is tremendous. So you've
excellent.
Got Stevens, you've got Jackson Street, Crater Lake,
as opposed to where Trader Joe's is.
Exactly.
Which is like the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. But anyway, but beyond that, we'll go. Anything else happening in there? I mean, apartments not being built. I mean, it seems like this kind of slowed down a little bit. Things like that.
No, there's some multifamily coming up on the west side of town, going out to the Jacksonville across from Bimart, and there's some apartments going in there.
Okay.
We've got some fast food restaurants. Del Taco, I understand, is coming in on Barnett Road.
That's what we need more of those. Things like that. That's why Mark Von Holle is here, because those jobs are fine if you're for some people, types of things, but that's not the family wage job, the kind of things.
It's not going to stop the brain drain of the kids to get great educations and
tell kids to leave.
Go build the economy somewhere else.
Yeah. That's right, and that goes back to the argument of increasing minimum wage to enhance middle class. I have a problem with that statement, but we're not going to go there. So that's a whole nother discussion.
We'll save that for another
session, please.
Well, before we get out of time, I want you to kind of say how to get a hold of you, Mark. So now tell us what you're going to be doing now the next 6 months or so, because when you come back again, sometime in 2015. What are you going to have for us?
Yeah, then, actually, I haven't officially launched. I've got my URL for my website set up, and I've got the majority of my stakeholders, more than 2/3 of the way there with my stakeholders, thanks to Jackson and Josephine County, and I've got the whole plan outlined, but I haven't officially launched. That's probably going to be within the next week or so. It'll probably be before January. But basically, I'm going to be identifying, doing a tremendous amount of research, and then I've got a whole detailed performance metrics of how many companies I'm going to be contacting a year, how many I'm going to be visiting, how many I'm going to be bringing up here.
You've got the whole thing all set out.
Yeah, it's all set up.
God, I love organized people. That's the most organized person I've ever known. Jim, and what about you now the next 6 months? What are you going to be up to?
I'm just going to keep working on projects, and I like the way it's been going. It's definitely increasing, and I see it being very busy for the next 6 months.
Well, that's good to hear. The economy is doing that there is activity going, because like I say, when we started our shows, there was nothing happening, and so this is really good to hear.
Yeah, and long-term rates, interest rates, as far as I know, are still pretty low.
Yeah.
There's some rumors going around that we may see increases next year, but to like 5%.
Everybody keeps saying that. We started that 2 years ago, and nothing's happened, so we'll see. Hey, Frank, thanks a lot. This is our final show with Ticor. We'll see you around with the home builders, I know.
I'll be here.
It's always a pleasure to visit with you.
Likewise.
Mark Bassett, as well, get in. Hey, that'll do it for the Real Estate Show. Have a great week, everybody, and God bless. This show repeats 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. We'll see you all next week right here on KMED.
Thank you for listening to the original Real Estate Show with Pete Belcastro and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys. For advice, guidance, or counsel on any of our topics, or to watch a replay of today's show, visit our website at realestateshoworegon.com. This show is sponsored by RE/MAX, Ideal Brokers of Southern Oregon, Ticor Title, All Cities Property Management, and the Jackson Soil and Water Conservation District. We'll continue our weekly quest to enhance the value of your property and to make you a smart real estate consumer when we gather every Saturday and Sunday on KMED for the one and only original real estate show.